answer me this. What is it about black people that many of you other races really dislike? Because I've done my best to try to come together with people. Because I want to let the past be the past. But it seems to me, other races are going to continue that past no matter what. And the reason I'm saying it because I fought to try to help a lot of the Hispanic community, man, with this ICE stuff. And the way I was just treated inside the store called Ideal, where it's a Spanish owned or whatever, I guess that's my first time going. And I went for somebody that needed help. I get in line to order something. They overlook me. 4 people come behind me. They take their orders until I'm the last one there. Then they finally want to ask me what I want. And I would have left if it wasn't for the people that I went for the food for. Don't stop there. I get to the cashier. I'm right there at the cashier. Put my shit on the conveyor belt. I'm right there. No one in front of me. All of a sudden, a Spanish woman come from behind me with a handful of stuff and handed over my shit.
Leave your cape in the closet and build with your own. That's all I'm saying.
Shalom. First, I start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to teachers, zealous, and the boss of great millstone. Likewise, brothers, put on this truth. Faithfully, fearlessly feeding the sheep and you brothers and sisters. Tuning in, Shalom, today's lesson titled, You Have to Understand the Why, Jake. Now, you saw in that opening clip here, very frustrated so-called black man, who is angry, because he felt that he was being disrespected by so-called Latino Hispanic shop owners, okay, and he doesn't understand, okay, why this is the case, okay. The question that he asked was, why is it that all the tribes on this earth, okay, he used the word race, okay, hate black people so much? Well, Jake, you're going to get a brief explanation, okay, from the scriptures as to why this is the case, okay, and even though you have your anger towards the so-called Hispanic and Latinos, who you perceive to be disrespecting you, even though you've tried to come to their aid during, the time of this ICE arrests, in these cities, okay, you need to understand, okay, that we are all under the same curse. Let's go to the book of Revelation 21 and start with verse 2, and it reads, And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from power out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of power is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and power himself shall be with them, and be their power. And power shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. Now, this is going to come after we have gone through what is known as Jacob's trouble, okay, the great tribulation, okay. And so leading up to that, we have a division amongst our people, okay. You have, keep in mind, Jake, okay, you have the 12 tribes of Israel, you have the southern kingdom, okay, which is made out of the so-called Negroes, okay, or the darker skinned Hebrew Israelite, and you have the northern kingdom, which is made out of our brothers and sisters that have, some have dark skin, but most have lighter skins, okay. And this animosity, what is perceived to be a hatred towards each other, okay, is actually a curse. In fact, let's go into the book of Deuteronomy 28 and starting with verse 15, because keep in mind, we as a holy people were given the commandments and we were disobedient, okay, to the Lord, Yahweh Shai. So he put curses on us, okay. It reads, But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, thy power to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Meaning what? They're going to be so severe, even though we try to reason within ourselves. And as you can see this, Jake, you're trying to reason with yourself as to why. I'm trying to help these Hispanics and Latinos who's being arrested by ICE agents and running for their lives. And yet still, here I am, I'm going into the store and I'm being mistreated and being disrespected. So I no longer want to help them anymore. Okay, and as you can hear at the conclusion of that video, okay, whoever put this video, this clip up said, take off the cape and help your own, okay? Which is not a mindset to be in, but and if you're going to be in that mindset, it would be help your own who are in righteousness, okay? Who are in righteousness, okay? This is verse 54, and it reads, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye should be evil towards his brother and towards his wife of his bosom and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, okay? Now, you look at that and you can see here, a lot of our households are single mother, okay? You have the Jake man and the Jake woman don't really get along, but also it says the man that is tender, okay, among you, okay, will have an evil eye towards his brother, okay? So that's even amongst so-called blacks, okay, have that evil eye towards each other, okay? In the Latino and Hispanic community, you have the exact same thing. Amongst the so-called Native Americans, you had the exact same thing, okay? Now, we are all here in this cauldron called, known as Great Babylon America, okay? And guess what? We're all trying to get that scraps, okay, from the rich man's table, okay? If you remember the Lazarus and the rich man parable, okay? And there's a hatred, okay? If the Hispanic or the Latinos have an edge over so-called blacks or people, they might feel like, well, I'm not looking to share this with you, or I'm a little bit better than you, or whatever case. Likewise, the same thing with so-called blacks, okay? A lot of you perceive your brothers and your Hispanic brothers and sisters to be beneath you, okay? But this is a curse. I just read it to you. So, Jake, you need to understand the why, okay? And you're depressed about it, okay? And we were, when I was in the world before I found out about the curses, I used to have the same experience too, and screw them, whatever the case is like that, okay? But once I understood that we are all under the same curses, okay, and why the only way we're going to get out of this, and I open up with Revelation, okay, 21, which talks about what that's really the end state, okay, when we are going to be under the rulership of Yahushua, the Mashiach, okay, and we're going to be happy. We're not going to be crying. We're not going to be sad that people hate you, and we're not going to be experiencing none of this in the heavenly kingdom, okay? Let's go into the book of Psalms 83 and start with verse 3, because on top of the curses, okay, the Lord Yahushua has also put the spirit on these other tribes to make this even worse for us. It reads, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may not be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites and Moab. Now, I'm going to stop right there and mention those three. The Edomites are who? The so-called white people. The Ishmaelites are the so-called Arabs. Okay, and the Moabites are the so-called Chinese. When you look at Great Babylon America, these three tribes, okay, have the biggest establishment, okay, of businesses and wealth here in this country. In J communities, you have the Moabites that set up their restaurants, okay, the Ishmaelites that set up their gas stations, okay, and of course, Esau, the Edomite, the so-called white people, they own everything, the land, the air, the color blue, whatever, okay, and it's no coincidence that the scriptures mention, okay, starting off with Edom. It says the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, okay, the people who have the oil, the sheiks, those people, those rich people, and of Moab, okay, who basically really is the manufacturers of the world, okay. China really makes everything. Everything's made in China, so to speak, okay. So they have all consulted, these other nations have consulted together to do what? First of all, we don't have an identity. We're now coming into our identity, okay? But we didn't have an identity. So we looked at each other. It's like, you're in my way. You're in my way, okay? The Hispanics and Latinos look at so-called blacks as, you're in my way of moving up. I want to be the so-called white man's best pet, okay? The same thing with Jake's, so-called blacks, okay? We look at the Hispanics and Latinos as, you're in my way. What skill set do you bring to the table? Okay, I can dribble ball better than you. I can rap better than you. You're just copying us, So this is that animosity that we have between us. Okay. Now keep in mind, Jake, you need to understand the why again. Okay, when you go into Jeremiah 50 and verse 33 reads, "Thus said the Lord of hosts, Yahweh Shemashai, the children of Israel, the children of Judah, northern and southern kingdom, were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. So we're all in a captive state. Moreover, when you go into Matthew 24:12, it says, "And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." So people are waxing wickeder and wickeder and wickeder and wickeder, and so there's going to be that feeling of cold. This is going to get even worse, especially when you have, the lack of food or substances that's going to be taking place during Jacob's trouble, along with the persecution that's going to be coming from these nations, these other tribes, siding with Esau, the Edomite, the so-called white man. Okay, but there's hope. There's hope, Jake. Okay. Let's go to Ezekiel 37 and start verse 16 reads, "Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it, for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it, for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions." So you got the head of the southern kingdom, which is Judah, okay, and then you have the head of the northern kingdom, okay, which is Ephraim. Okay, or what they call Puerto Ricans, okay, and Judah is the so-called African Americans. It says, "And join them to one another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, Thus said the Lord, power. Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand." Okay, so we are going to come together eventually, but first we have to go through this tribulation. You have to have the 2/3 of our people, okay, be deleted. Okay, the 1/3 has to be redeemed. Okay, and through the loins of the 1/3 elect men, okay, the rest of the tribes will come back. Okay, thus when you go into Revelation 21 and verse 2, where you see the holy city of Jerusalem coming down, meaning the set of our people, we come back down in our immortal bodies back on earth. Okay, and henceforth, the Mashiach said what? He has made everything new. So this hatred is going to stop. Okay, Jake, this is something, especially if you're in the world, you will feel this way. And those of you who the rest of the Jakes that are in the world, as the comment at the end of this clip said, take off the cape, and just only deal with your own, okay? And that is the mindset of the worldly people, okay? Your true understanding comes from learning what's written in the scriptures and from the men that were set up to edify you on those, okay? So Lord, will indeed, like was edified, I close up by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Rakakadash, Shalom.